Chelsea have just signed Enzo Fernandez from Benfica for more than 120 million euros, making this a British transfer record. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Fernandez being overpriced and Chelsea spending over the odds in the January transfer window, but it's important to account for additional factors than just money spent before judging Chelsea's strategy as poor, mediocre, or even great. And in my opinion, these additional factors include things like underlying stats, play style, and fit in Graham Potter's system. In this video, we're going to analyze the Enzo Fernandez transfer under the lens of these additional factors to determine if this was a good move for Chelsea and also attempt to understand where he will play in Potter's system. Now, before we get into the analysis, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We have to start by understanding Graham Potter's preferred formations and playstyle, because that will tell us exactly how he wants his midfielders to play. Without this, we cannot understand how Potter will use Enzo Fernandez and which current Chelsea player will get benched as a result. Now, Potter's first game in charge of Chelsea was a 1-1 draw against FC Salzburg in the Champions League on September 14th of last year. Including that game, Potter has managed Chelsea for 21 games in all competitions. And just to bring you the stats on this, I've gone through all 21 games to painstakingly analyze formations, results, goals, and XG both for and against Chelsea, so please drop a like on the video. In his 21 games as manager, he's used the 4-2-3-1 and 3-4-2-1 most often, with 7 times each. Out of these two formations, he's had more success with the 4-2-3-1 with 4 wins, 2 draws, and just 1 loss. In terms of goals scored and conceded as well, he's had the most success with the 4-2-3-1 at Chelsea. But this doesn't necessarily mean that the 4-2-3-1 is his preferred formation, as right now he's just trying to do anything to win games for Chelsea. I think we'll get more insights into his preferred formations by going back to his time as Brighton manager. In the 21-22 season, Potter played 13 different formations in the 38 league games that he managed Brighton, and this shows you that his tactics are often based on the opposition that he's facing. And you can see this at Chelsea too, because he's used 7 different formations this season. So in the 21-22 season, his preferred formation for Brighton was the 3-4-2-1, which he's used 7 times at Chelsea already. So let's analyze how his team plays in this shape. On screen here, we already have the preferred 3-4-2-1 formation that he likes. And for this video, we're going to analyze the team he used in his most recent Premier League game versus Liverpool, which ended in a 0-0 draw. Now, we see the starting shape here with 3-4-2-1, but it actually lines up as a 3-2-4-1 in possession. Up top, you have Havertz, supported by Mount and Gallagher in the inside spaces as attacking midfielders. Ziyech and Cucurella, the wingbacks, join the attacking midfielders to play as left and right midfielders, forming the advanced line of 4 players that we see here. In this formation, the front 5 that we see here are expected to be very tactically fluid, especially the striker or center forward, which is Havertz in this scenario, who's expected to make runs to the wings, which pulls out the opposing center back towards him and creates space internally for a runner to run through the middle. And that runner can either be Gallagher or even Ziyech, who's running in from the wing, to capitalize on this space and either create a chance or score a goal themselves. If the opposing defense is ready for this and they pull their center back and right back closer to close these gaps centrally, then it does 2 things. One is it creates overloads on the right wing because Havertz, Gallagher, and Ziyech are there. And 2, it allows more space for Mount and Cucurella on the other opposite side to run in behind and get on the end of balls that these 3 players can play towards them. In behind the front 5, you have the double pivot of Hall and Jorginho. And these 2 players aren't actually asked to get forward that much. Their job is to rotate the ball to the right areas and protect the backline in case of counterattacks. Jorginho in particular will be missed from the Chelsea team because this role suited him perfectly. He was a great passer and he knew when to pick up tactical fouls when necessary. That leaves us with the back 3, which actually adds another layer of tactical flexibility for Graham Potter. Potter wants his left and right center backs to double up as wing backs in possession, so actually occupy these areas here, which makes this a 1-4-4-1 in possession. So from what we've just explained, you can see the 3 basic tenets of Potter's football philosophy. He wants his players to be tactically flexible and play multiple positions. He relies on that flexibility to create overloads in attacking areas, and he's also not worried about being defensively open because his focus is on overwhelming the opponent in attack to create lots of chances. If you feel like you've learned something about Potter's tactics, preferred formations, or even something about football in general, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel because it allows me to keep creating content just like this. So what have we learned about how Potter could use Enzo in this team? At Brighton, Potter liked to use players who perform a number of different roles and change positions constantly during games. Players like Pascal Gross, Solly March, Trossard, and Enzo's World Cup winning teammate Alexis McAllister. His philosophy on tactical flexibility hasn't changed at Chelsea. He still likes tactically versatile players like Cucurella, Mount, Gallagher, Sterling, and so on. And Enzo Fernandez is perfect for Potter because he can play 6 or 7 different positions in this team, whether that's CDM, center mid, attacking midfielder, left or right midfielder, or as a wingback on either side. But we still need to analyze Enzo Fernandez's game to understand what his best position is in this Chelsea team. So let's do that. Now, Enzo Fernandez has played most often in the CDM position in his last 50 games, but does he actually play like a CDM that sits deep, wins the ball back, and dictates the play? Let's compare his stats from this season to some of the best CDMs in the Premier League, and to do this, we're going to compare him to Rodri, Casemiro, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, and Moises Caicedo. We're going to start with defensive actions like tackles, interceptions, and blocks. Looks like Enzo Fernandez is 3rd on the list for tackles with 2.6 per 90. He's 4th on the list for blocks with roughly 1 per 90. And he's dead last on the list for interceptions with roughly 1 per 90 as well. So it appears that across these 3 categories, Enzo Fernandez is 5th in the list, just above Thomas Partey. We can dive even deeper to look at some more stats that are relevant to CDMs like ball recoveries and aerial duels. Looks like Enzo Fernandez is dead last in ball recoveries with 6 per 90. He's also dead last in aerial duels 1 per 90 with 0.58, and his win percentage for aerial duels is also lowest in this list. So far, he doesn't seem to fit the mold of a traditional CDM. How does he compare to these 5 players in the attacking side of the game? Let's compare some of his shooting stats by looking at shots, shots on target, average shooting distance, and expected goals. Looks like Enzo Fernandez takes the most shots with almost 2 per game, and the shots he takes are a little more erratic in comparison, as only 10% of them are on target, but I think this can be explained by his average shooting distance, as he's shooting out from further out on average relative to the other players here. And he also seems to be a little more productive in front of goal with the highest expected goals per 90 in this list. From the stats alone that we've seen so far, it seems like he's a little better than these Premier League CDMs at shooting. Let's compare passing stats next. Enzo Fernandez completes the most passes per 90 in this list, which shows that he loves getting on the ball. If we analyze the types of passes he plays, he's 1st for short and long passes and 2nd for medium length passes. Now, passing is probably his most underrated attribute because he can do whatever is needed by his team at any moment. He can keep it simple, play it short, switch the play, or play someone in behind when it's needed. And finally, let's see how Enzo Fernandez compares to some of these players on the ball. So stats like touches, dribbles, passes received, and progressive passes received. And again, he has some impressive stats here as he's 1st for touches per 90, 2nd for successful dribbles per 90, 1st for passes received, which combined with him being 1st for passes completed means he loves to pass and move. And lastly, he's also 1st for progressive passes received, which means he's good at making vertical runs off the ball to find space and receive the ball from his teammates. With his shooting, passing, and dribbling skills being this good, he looks like a great attacking midfielder who can operate from deep lying areas as well. Quite similar to someone like Christian Eriksen, Bernardo Silva, or even Granit Xhaka this season. Now, from everything we've seen so far, it's quite obvious that there aren't any real gaps in his game. He really can do everything that you'd expect from a midfielder, and it's absolutely no surprise to me that Benfica didn't want to negotiate down from his 120 million release clause. I think Graham Potter will absolutely love the tactical flexibility that Enzo Fernandez provides because as we've just seen, he really can play in 6 or 7 different positions. I suppose the final question is, which Chelsea midfielder will Enzo replace in the starting lineup? Since Jorginho's moved to Arsenal, Potter has 5 central and attacking midfielders to choose from in Mason Mount, Mateo Kovacic, Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, and Carney Chukwuemeka. Now, I don't want to go too in depth to compare all the stats we just looked at for defending, shooting, passing, and dribbling, so I've narrowed it down to the following 7 statistics, and that's touches per 90 to see how often they get on the ball, progressive passes per 90 to see how often they play the ball forward, penalty area passes per 90 to see how often they play the ball into the penalty box, key passes per 90 to see how often they play the pass right right before a shot, tackles and interceptions per 90 to gauge how good they can be at pressing from the front, shots per 90 to see how often they get into shooting areas, and expected goals and assists per 90 to analyze the expected goal contributions that you can see from them every game. As we pull up the stats table here, you can see that Fernandez is first in every single category except for tackles and interceptions, which is arguably the least relevant statistic out of the 7 listed here. Now, I know that these are his stats for Benfica, but it's difficult to be this good at all of these categories, even in the Portuguese league. His contributions will drop down to earth a little while playing in the Premier League for Chelsea, but these numbers are definitely promising for Chelsea fans. If we pay close attention to the stats here, looks like Fernandez's game is closest to that of Mount or Gallagher, especially when it comes to goal contributions per 90. If you ask me, Enzo Fernandez's best position is as one of the middle two in the 3-4-2-1 formation, and he'll probably replace Conor Gallagher in the team. But he could easily play in the double pivot where Jorginho used to play, as he has the passing and defending skills needed to thrive in this position. Now, of course, Chelsea fans might be wondering, why can't he play in the forward line and compete with Felix or Mudryk or David Fofana or one of the other 10,000 players that Chelsea signed in this window? In my honest opinion, you will get the most out of Enzo Fernandez by playing him in midfield, and make no mistake about it, he's been signed by Chelsea to play as a midfielder for the next 5 to 10 years. Let me know in the comments down below how excited you are with this signing and where you think he'll play. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.